Thor, can I just have you just introduce yourself for the record, please, sir?
Sure. My name is Torbjørn Pedersen, which I shortened down to Thor Pedersen as I travel. I come from Denmark. I was born in 78. I have a background in the military, 3 years served, and then 12 years within civilian life, shipping and logistics. And then in late 2013, I embarked on a journey to become the first in history to reach every country in the world completely without flying. It was set to take 4 years or less. Some things got in the way, and now I'm in the Maldives, and I have earned that title.
Absolutely. Congratulations on behalf of the Eyewitness News team, 567 Cape Talk, the 702 team, and yeah, the whole Prime Media stable of radio stations here in South Africa. Yeah, humble congratulations to you. It's an incredible feat. And yeah, thank you again for making the time. I know you're probably tired of doing all these interviews. And I just want to bring up the last interview that you and I did together, which was, let me just check the date here. It was 2020, around about April, mid-April. At that point, COVID-19 had taken hold, and you were
Right.
stuck in Hong Kong at the time. Let's go back quickly to that moment, the last time we spoke. I mean, yeah, something completely out of the blue, really putting a huge spanner in the works, especially with such a massive feat that you're undertaking. And of course, not to fly, not to go home to do any of your visa issues. Looking back at that now and things are opening up again, of course, you would not be able to complete your trip without that. How do you feel?
Well, the Hong Kong chapter of this project it has a lot of room within my heart. It was simultaneously the worst and the best time of my life. I almost feel like that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but I mean, Hong Kong's amazing, absolutely amazing, and I'm very passionate about Hong Kong today. I know the neighborhoods, I know a great deal about the culture and the history. I made amazing friends, really, really good friends that I miss dearly today. I had my routines. I fell in love with the mountains. I did a lot of hiking and trail running, and yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on in that period. But at the same time, it was this mental battle where my brain was trying to work out when to throw in the towel. Initially, we thought it might be 2 or 3 months, and then things would start to open up, and I could get on with the project. But then 6 months, then a year, and then the vaccine started coming, and we thought that would make a difference. And then the second vaccine and the third vaccine. And it was 2 years before I could get out of there. So that's a lot of internal battle.
And take us through what happened since there up until your point now. I mean, there was also started like a stop and start and a lot of waiting for you in the various kind of final stretch of countries that you had to get through. Take us through those countries that you needed to go through up until this point, where you are now, and what's going to happen next for the final
Sure.
stretch home.
Sure. So the last 6 months of my time in Hong Kong, I was in negotiation with the government in Palau and in with a shipping company that has ships that run to and from Palau. And every time we came close to striking a deal, there was a new variant or something like this. So it took 6 months to get it in place. Then finally, I managed to go to Palau. And then I was hotel quarantined in Palau because they had their greatest outbreak. So I knew I had 14 days, and 12 of those days, I believe, were spent in 8 of those were spent in a hotel room, and then I had 6 to walk around in Palau. I had to come back to Hong Kong, then do 2 weeks hotel quarantine. And then I was out of Hong Kong on a ship to Australia. Australia was great. It was the first time I could take the mask off for a very long time. Media was great, and the attention, just Australia was absolutely fantastic. Then I was trying to get to New Zealand. New Zealand was opening up in stages, so they had opened up if you're willing to fly in as a tourist, but you were not welcome on board a ship. And I had to negotiate with government in New Zealand, and finally I got through. Then there was a shipping company that was on board and willing to take me. Then they weren't on board. Then we're on board again, and there were several issues in reaching New Zealand. Eventually got there. Then another shipping company was unwilling to take me to Vanuatu, still because of the pandemic. So instead, a New Zealand hospital ship was able to take me back to Fiji. And then in Fiji, I was able to make connections with another shipping company, Swire Shipping, that could bring me to Samoa and then Tonga. These were also two countries where we needed to negotiate with government, and it had a positive outcome. So I'm grateful to all of those nations that opened their doors to me. And then eventually back to Fiji. And then from Fiji, I was able to go to New Caledonia in order to reach Vanuatu. And then from Vanuatu back to Fiji again. And then it was a bit of a struggle to get to Tuvalu. Tuvalu is the world's smallest, one of the smallest countries in the world, one of the least visited, and one of the smallest populations as well. Very, very remote island nation with about 11,000 people. And I managed to get there, and then I got stuck in Tuvalu for a couple of months. There weren't many options. There wasn't much to do. So, but managed to visit all 9 island nations in Tuvalu before getting on a tugboat that brought me back to Fiji again. And then from Fiji, I got on a ship returning to Singapore. And then from Singapore, I could cross the land border to Malaysia. And then another ship could bring me to Sri Lanka. And now we're rolling. And then from Sri Lanka, I could join a ship and come to the Maldives, where I am right now, the final country in the world, all without flying, all without returning home in between.
And from here, you're still not going to fly to get back to your home in Denmark. Is that correct? Is that still home base? Are you going to try and find your way back without taking any flights?
Yeah, that's right. So if you would have asked me maybe 2 or 3 months ago if I was going to fly home from the Maldives or go home over land and sea, I was undecided, because it has just been an uphill battle to the very, very last moment. I mean, the last 3 ships, the one that brought me to Singapore, the one that brought me to Sri Lanka, and the one that brought me to the Maldives, immigration in those 3 ports were not keen on having a passenger arrive on a container ship. So it has truly been an uphill battle to the very, very last moment. And it's almost begging to get on board these ships. You know, a lot of these shipping companies have no real interest in taking a passenger. So again, that's been very, very, very hard. And I mean, if I could get to the Maldives and simply fly home, that would just kind of ease my pain. And in some ways, it's done. I reached the Maldives. I reached all the countries. I didn't fly, so it's done. So why not fly home? But then something amazing happened a couple of months ago, where I got an email from one of the world's largest shipping companies, and they said, you know, we can help you all the way back home. And so they're just doing all the logistics on my behalf. They're also helping with some of the bureaucracy. And because I don't have to fight for it in the same way that I have been doing in recent years, I decided, okay, then I am going to make a proper completion of the project. 3 more ships. 1 ship from the Maldives back to Sri Lanka, 1 ship from Sri Lanka all the way through Suez Canal, through the Mediterranean Sea, around Europe and up to Germany, and then 1 ship from Germany to a port back home in Denmark, and then I'm done. And
then you're leaving today, is that right?
I'm leaving for Sri Lanka today. Yes, okay. I got a message just an hour ago. So when I said we're leaving today, I figured I would have at least 24 hours notice.
And how do you feel, Thor? I mean, you know, we don't need to have that conversation again of everything that you've gone through, because one can only imagine the emotional sort of painstaking journey that it is to miss out on huge milestones or key points in your life where you may have had the comfortability of enjoying those things closer to home, of course, within the physicality of being closer to those things. Is there a huge sense of relief, or do you feel a little bit sad and nostalgic that it's coming to an end?
I don't have either of those feelings. I think at this point it has just been so full on since I arrived that I haven't had time to sit down and reflect. I very much still feel like I'm in it because I decided I was going to go home over land and sea. So I still need to get on these ships, and I still need to do the immigration and the customs and that stuff. In that sense, it doesn't feel like it's over. And it's been interviews and attention and emails and messages and handshakes and selfies and nonstop since I reached the final country. So yeah, I really need time on my own. I need some quiet space and sit and reflect about what have we actually done with this project? What was the true value within it? What were the learnings? Who have I developed into being? And then eventually I feel very, very robotic, to be honest. I mean, it's in the last many years, it's been this push forward, do what I need to do in order to get to the remaining countries. It's been so much more work than pleasure. So I need to humanize myself again. I need to find more empathy and I think there are a number of things just to transition back into a normal life and normal society, because what I have done and what I have become is fairly extreme, I would say.
Absolutely. Just remind me, are you married? I know that you guys got engaged.
Yes.
You are married, right? So you got married
Yeah,
along the journey.
We're married twice, so it's sort of like a yes and no kind of thing. We got engaged in Kenya, on top of Mount Kenya, back in 2016. And then when I was stuck in Hong Kong, she couldn't travel to Hong Kong. Hong Kong was fairly strict. So we worked out that there was a loophole. If I could become a resident and if we were married, then she could get a visa, special visa, and come to Hong Kong. So I got a job and became a temporary resident. And we found out that in Utah, there was an agency that marries people online, sort of through Zoom or something similar. So we had that done. It sounds crazy, but we had that done. And then we got the official paperwork from Utah County. And we tried to process that in Denmark. And in Denmark, they were laughing, so you're not married. You can't get married online. We didn't even get married on the same day because of the time difference. So she's married on the 19th and I'm married on the 20th. But it was good enough for Hong Kong. So she came into Hong Kong and spent some time with me. And then at a later point, when we met up again in Vanuatu, much later, we decided to get a proper wedding, and we had that on the beach, and it was beautiful. And then they're supposed to process that paperwork with government. But then shortly after we left Vanuatu, the government in Vanuatu was attacked with a ransomware attack. So all the government computers and all their data and everything was locked. And this took several months. And then after that, they were hit by a horrible typhoon and a second horrible typhoon. So it hasn't been processed yet, meaning that we know that we're married in Utah, we're married in Hong Kong, and we're married in Vanuatu, but possibly nowhere else.
And Thor, is it Lay or is it Lee? Just correct me if I'm mispronouncing it.
Lee.
Lee, okay. And how does she feel that you guys are now finally coming towards like some finality? You know, you're gonna get your, for the lack of a better term, we say it in South Africa, also in Britain, you're gonna get your arse to an anchor, basically, and get back to one place. How does she feel that, and how does your family feel and friends feel, who've been watching you on Instagram or YouTube or whatever the case may be for such a long time? Now you're going to be sort of, around for barbecues and for suppers and dinner parties,
Yeah, you're right. Well, I think that there's a lot of excitement and a little bit of nervousness as well with some. Certainly for my wife and I, my wife couldn't be more proud of me, and she's really happy that this has come to a successful conclusion and that I'm unharmed, knock on wood, and that I'll now be heading home and we'll be able to wake up next to each other just in a couple of months' time from now and go for a walk and go out and meet with friends and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I have become fiercely independent in the past 10 years, and she has become fiercely independent in the last 10 years. We've been running our own households, our own lives, and this kind of stuff, and obviously being in a long-distance relationship, so communicating on a day-to-day basis. But she decides what time she goes to bed, she decides what she has for dinner, she decides when she's going to clean the apartment, these things. And now we need to see if that's going to work out when I come back home, and two fiercely independent people need to make that work. So I think we will make it work. And I think it's not going to be much of a problem because we're really good together. But there is that little voice in the back of our heads, I guess, that's going like, what if it doesn't work, Yeah, obviously friends, family. I need to go out and learn the names of all these children that have been born in the past decade and see what has changed. All sorts of bridges and roads and buildings have gone up and forest has been cut down. And all of this, I need to climatize for sure.
And I think it's also very important to quickly honor, as we run out of time, because I really don't want to keep you too long. I know it's very stressful. And the project that you had undertaken once upon a saga. I mean, you're a goodwill ambassador for the Red Cross Society in Denmark. Remind us, the core sort of theme or mission of this ultimate project, notwithstanding your personal journey and everything that you've undertaken and experienced as this ultimate, cultural experience. That project that you undertaken, what is the benefit? What's the overriding final achievement that you're hoping to achieve through the Red Cross Society?
Well, if specifically through the Red Cross, then I think we've been able to prove the sheer volume of the Red Cross. The Red Cross is the world's largest humanitarian organization. It's found in 192 countries around the world. It was founded in 1863, so it's been around for more than 150 years. And because I included extra countries, I went to Scotland as well, and I went to Greenland as well, where you also find the Red Cross. I've been able to meet up with the movement in 199 countries around the world, which is absolutely unprecedented. On top of that, of course, raising awareness for the humanitarian work, but also raising funds. And we have raised what I would say is a significant amount of money for humanitarian work throughout this, thanks to my followers online. And on top of that, I've donated blood in at least 3 different countries around the world. I donated several times while I was in Hong Kong. So there's that benefit within it. I'd say it's mostly about some visibility for the Red Cross, and hopefully some people have found their way to donate some of their own funds through their own ways, so their own channels, but also donate their time, become volunteers, or just engage with the humanitarian work in one way or the other.
Okay, perfect. So as we end off, a quick round of quick fire questions, and then we're done. And then I'm going to leave you, and then we'll catch up again another time. Okay, let's not be biased here. Most beautiful country in the world, go.
South Africa.
You're just saying that. You're just saying that. Come on, why are you saying that?
Well, South Africa does have a lot to offer. I did travel the lengths and breadths of South Africa, and I was looking out the window. I was in a bus looking out the window, and I felt like it changed again and again and again. And I remember thinking they could have shot almost any movie in the world somewhere in South Africa. It just had all of it. There was the big open plains, there were beautiful colors, mountains, great rivers and lakes. There's the coastline, there's cities, villages, all of this. So it is a pretty good answer if you want to say something in that. But I mean, I'm passionate about a lot of countries around the world, and a real go-to answer is always to mention the country of the person you're speaking to.
But okay, if you had to not settle at home and find yourself somewhere that you would possibly go back to after, taking some time off and relaxing and staying in one place for a while, what country do you think that might be, that you think, oh, I need to visit this again?
Well, South Africa is again pretty good in terms of beer. There's good meat. I mean, I was warned, before going to South Africa, a lot of people were warning me, saying, be careful and don't go out at night and don't do this and don't do that. And I did everything that people told me not to do, and it worked out. So it might have been lucky, but there are a lot of pretty good and decent people in the world, and certainly a lot of them are found in South Africa too. So yeah, it is a good country for a number of reasons. My go-to answer is, however, Iceland. I mean, Iceland is the country that, for me, I find myself most compatible with if I can't go back home to Denmark for some reason. So it's a great modern country. It's a very, very small population, which is almost like a village sort of atmosphere, which I do enjoy. It's adventurous. They have volcanoes, and the country sits on 2 different tectonic plates and is ripping apart as we speak. But you get the new iPhone and you get the new movies and all that stuff when it comes out. The main thing about Iceland for me is the mentality. For most countries around the world, I would say pretty much every country in the world, you're put on the conveyor belt of life from the get-go, and clean your room and help your mother and go to school and get a job and get married and build a family and support and provide, and then eventually you run off the end of this conveyor belt and that's it. So if you have any great ambitions of doing something unorthodox, maybe you want to be a movie star or you want to be a singer or you want to be an athlete, or you want to write a book, or who knows what, then in most countries, people will tell you, don't. They'll say, get your education, go out and get a conventional job, and then whatever you dream about, have it as a hobby. And then if you have enough time and energy, and if it works out, then maybe you can take it somewhere. But don't, that's not where you want to lay all your eggs. Whereas in Iceland, it seems like if you do jump off the conveyor belt, there's plenty of support that people will come in and back you. They might offer an empty room so you don't have to pay rent. They might be able to connect you with a publisher or something like this. And I love that mentality about Iceland.
Fantastic. I think we're going to end it there, Thor. I don't want to keep you any more of your time. It's safe travels for the final stretch of your journey home. I'm wishing you all the best luck and many beautiful days with your wife. And yeah, I hope you just manage to find some relaxation as you get home and just like let it all loose. But seriously, what you've undertaken is nothing short of remarkable. And yeah, it should stay with you for the rest of your life. I think it's absolutely incredible. And thank you for allowing me to tell your story. I also appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Thor. Keep well. We'll chat soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.